think it's Jeremiah. It says, and at the same time, says the Lord, I will be the God of all the families of Israel, and they shall be my people. For thus saith the Lord, the people who survived the sword found grace in the wilderness. Israel. When I went to give him rest, I just want to talk to you for a second. I'm going to keep this up there. I'm going to keep reading in a minute. How many of you know that over the last few months, actually the last few years, have been some of the roughest times of my life? One of the things that the Lord says is after this, he says, the people, he said, you'll be my God. I'll be your God and you'll be my people. But he said, after this, he says, the people who survived the sword, I'll give you rest. Go back to one. I mean two, I'm sorry. The people who survived the sword found grace in the wilderness. I know that may sound strange to some of you, but some of you already, you may have known what I'm talking about. For some of you, you've been going through a rough time in your life. And you feel like you've been under the sword. You know what the sword is. The sword is a place where it seems like everything around you is being cut in half. Sometimes it's your heart. Sometimes it's your mind. Sometimes it's your finances. Sometimes it's your relationships. It feels like everything around you is being cut. It seems like everything around you, sometimes it's not enough that it's being cut. It seems like everything around you is being butchered. And just being honest with you, some people don't survive the sword. Have you ever been in a place where it felt like everything around you was going wrong? And you couldn't figure out what you were doing, or even if you had done anything at all? Have you ever been in a place where it seems like you did all you could, you did all you knew to do, and whenever you finished, it seemed like you had came up just a little short? Have you ever been in a place where it seemed like there was a season in your life where you touched everything and it turned into gold, and then it seemed like there was a season in your life where everything you touched turned into dust? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but it seemed like there are times whenever your highest highs sometimes seem to be the lowest lows. It seems like there are times when you reach out and you touch something looking for comfort, only to find out that that thing is reaching for you for comfort. You ever been in a place where it seemed like your finances, your ends weren't even seeing each other, let alone meeting? Have you ever been in a place where it seemed like you had too much money to be bankrupt, but not enough to be completely broke? Yeah, understand what I'm saying? You ever been in a place where it just seemed like that, and it seems like everything was going on around you, but God said that after the sword, after you've been through the battle, after you've been through the fight, after you've been, and some of you have fought so long that you think fighting is normal, but God says after you've been under the sword, you got notices where your light was going to get shut off, your water was going to get shut off, and it seemed like after you shut the water back on, it seemed like it seemed like somebody was coming by to collect trash money. I don't know what it is, but after you've been through the sword, he says those who survived the fight. It seems unfair, but it seems like, he says, they found themselves in the wilderness. Have you ever been through a fight that was so hard? Sometimes just surviving the fight may seem to be enough. Have you ever been through a night that was so dark that it seems like just surviving the night? Have you ever been in a place where you wanted to hear an answer, even if it was from God, and you were in a place where sometimes, even if he said no, at least he's talking to me. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, or if you've ever been there.
Yes.
And if you ever did that thing, if you ever been in the darkness and been in a fight of your life. I remember one time I was in the military and I got in a fight. Dude said, "Dixon, I'll come and snatch you off your bunk." I said, "Well, I'll show you right." If you ever been in a fight that is so gruesome that you wondered if you would even make it out of the fight. So for some of you it may be spiritual, for some of you it may be emotional, for some of you it may be physical, for some of you it may be financial, for some of you it may have been I don't know what it was, but have you ever been in a fight that was so gruesome that you didn't know whether you was choking it or it was choking you? You didn't know whether you were swinging on it or it was swinging on you. But either way, knocked you to your knees. And then after the fight was over, you thought you were going to get relief, but you found yourself in the wilderness. You see, here's the problem and the good thing about the wilderness. The wilderness is you're not in bondage anymore. You're not in the fight anymore, but you feel lost. I don't know if you've ever been there, but you feel lost. I'm neither here nor there. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not. I'm not quite a butterfly. The wilderness is a cocoon place and it's tight. You understand what I'm saying? It's tight. Not quite a butterfly. But at least I'm not a worm. It's tight in here. It feels like everything is breaking me down. I feel like I'm lost. I don't know where everything is going to come from. My next this or my next that. But I'm not quite. I'm not quite a butterfly. But at least I'm not a worm anymore. Amen. In fact, I'm not even really sure who I am right now. Not quite a butterfly, but I refuse to crawl another day in my life. Don't have my wings yet. Don't even really know where I'm going. I'm trying to figure this thing out even as we go on. But God says, even in your wilderness place. See, the wilderness is a place where wild animals exist. Wild things. It's where the wild things are. The wilderness is the place that stands in between bondage and in between your blessing. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but the wilderness is a place that's in between where you are supposed to be and where you used to be. Sometimes we get in the wilderness, and the problem with the wilderness is, for a little while, what's before us looks the same as what's after us. The wilderness is a place where there's so many trees that sometimes, if you're not careful, you can find yourself going around in circles, repeating the same old stuff that got you into bondage in the first place. Amen? Amen. So you were dating a man or a boy who called himself a man. And you broke up with that person only to find that people change and places change. But the spirit remains the same. You leave one form of bondage for another. That's what the wilderness looks like. The wilderness looks like a place. After the fight, after you survived the sword, after you survived everything, the wilderness looks like a place that's in between everything. It's amazing that God says you'll find grace there. Y'all know what grace is? He says you'll find grace in the wilderness. Grace in the place where you feel like you're lost. You'll find grace there. I'm waiting because some of you are going to catch that. In between where you're going and in between where you used to be. After the fight is over, after you've been through the fight of your life, God says you'll find grace. He says you'll find grace. Grace is the ability to do what you never thought you could do.
Hallelujah.
I don't know if you understand what that means, but I figured out what that means. The other day I caught a vision of grace. I didn't realize, but it was just sometimes you just see a picture. And I saw a picture of myself, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, I broke down when I was driving my car. Because I saw a picture of me and my brother standing behind my mom's casket, preaching her funeral. That's grace. In between, after the fight, even during the fight, when you find yourself in a place where you've never been before, and you need God the most, God says that after the sword, you'll find grace in the wilderness, and he'll give you rest. He'll give you rest. And I know rest is important because I've been there, and I know people who've been there. Some of you have been so tired that sleep is not even giving you rest anymore. And you're up worrying about what is supposed to be and what's happening and what didn't happen. You're up worrying about this child and that child and this and this, that. And you're up worrying about stuff that you probably shouldn't even worry about. And what God says is, God says, I plan to give you rest. He says, I got it. I got it. Go to verse number 3. I want to show you something. He says, I want to give you rest. And he says, and here's the reason why. He says, the Lord, that means the God of everything, has appeared of old to me, saying, yes. I could stop there, because a yes from the Lord means that nobody can tell you no. He said, the Lord has appeared of old unto me, saying, yes, watch this, I have loved you.
That's good.
He says, yes, I have loved you. Then you have to ask yourself this question. If he says, yes, I've loved you, you have to ask yourself, when did he love you?
Ah, that's it.
Come on now.
Look at that. Makes sense.
And he says, I've loved you in the past tense. So go back to verse number 2. And we'll find out, when did he love you? He says, I loved you before you went under the sword. Before you went through the battle, before the battle had even formed against you, God said, I loved you.
Yes, God.
And he said, I loved you. And there was that love that caused you to survive the sword.
Work.
And he said, and I loved you, and it caused you to find the way in and through the wilderness. I forgot to tell you that the wilderness is not a place that you stay in. A wilderness is a place that you go through. Are you understand what I'm saying? Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no enemies. The wilderness is a place that you go through on your way to victory.
Come on now.
The problem is that most of us stop in the wilderness. And we hang around with wild people, and we hang around with wild things. And we wonder why we get caught up in wild prizes. Keep in mind, if you play wild games with wild people, you get wild prizes. Incidentally, you play stupid games with stupid people, you get stupid prizes too. But he says, I've loved you. When you went into the battle, I was there. I was your shield. your very present help in a time of trouble. And he says, and when you went into the wilderness, I was there and I had grace. Some of you ask, God, and I know people ask this question, where were you when all this broke loose? Where were you, God? When this happened and that happened. Where were you, God? When I lost this or I lost them or I lost that. I almost fixed my mouth one time to ask God, what were you doing when Darius passed? And before I can even get it out of my mouth, God answered the question.
Yes.
And he said the same thing I was doing when I lost my son. I was seated on my throne. And I was loving you even then. Which brings me to my next piece. He says, because I've loved you with an everlasting love. So when did everlasting love begin? I would submit to you that before your grandmother ever met your granddaddy, before your great-grandmother ever met your great-granddaddy, God loved you. I know this may seem like a far stretch because most of you don't even really understand what love is. Nowadays, we equate love with sex, and you can tell that by the way we listen to our songs. But love, brothers and sisters, will be good for you, even when it doesn't feel like it's being good to you. And so God said, I loved you when you were under the sword. I loved you before you went through the sword. I loved you before you even got here. I loved you while you were in the wilderness, while you were going through, and I loved you. And he says, and it was that love that brought you out. Amen. And it was that love that's going to give you rest. And he said, it was that love that's everlasting. Do you know that God loved you even when you were in your mess? See, because we seem to think that being holy gives us God's love. But God said, I loved you when you were horrible. He said, I loved you even when you were unlovable. God is not like man. God doesn't love you because you're also such a much. So we got to get that out of our head. God loved you when you were horrible.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you.
He loved you.
Hey.
He loved you.
Thank you, God.
He loved you.
Thank you, God.
And he saw you. He saw you. I remember Sister Crystal was, you don't mind me saying, was telling a story about water, and I was telling her about how proud I was of her, about how far the Lord brought her. But the Lord saw you while you were doing that. And he gave you a situation that you would have to never do that again. In fact, God told Crystal, because, come here, Crystal, come here, let me show you something. I'm going to pick on my little sister. While she was doing what she was doing, God says, stop right there. He says, I see what you're doing, but I love you. Take a step forward. He says, I see what they said about you, and I know you made a mistake. I know you lied about the mistake. I know you'll do it again. Oh, child, but if you could see you the way I see you, I love you so much. Take another step forward. What he's saying is, go to verse number 3, Minister Pringle. He says,
Hey!
and therefore with loving kindness have I drawn you. And he says, I saw it. And he says, but I love you.
Oh, my God.
And he came, touched her. Just like he touched me. That's why I don't have no judgment for nobody. Because he saw her. And he says, I love you. And I'm proud of you just because I created you. And please don't mistake that for going to heaven or hell. But he says, because of that, I came to get you. And I want you to come back with me. But see, by now, the touch has got her hooked. And as he stepped away, he says, but I love you. I see what you're doing, and I came to meet you in it. But with loving kindness have I drawn you. And see, now, she's addicted to my love. See, that's what really happens. So when I step away, it's an automatic reaction for her to step with me. Because with love and kindness have I drawn her. And God says, I saw what you did. They don't know. You don't have to tell. You don't even have to tell them what you did with the water. But he said, I saw what you did with the water. And he says, and not only am I going to give you water, I'm going to fill you with water. And now the water that you need is going to be on the inside of you. Jesus. And on the outside of you. Because from out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water.
Yeah!
Oh my God.
He says, you know, that's just remember. You remember the woman? He says, and I've drawn you. And so, whenever, and that's one of the reasons why when people walk away from God, they feel tormented. Because they're trying to find a love in something that they'll never be filled. They're trying to find a love in stuff that would never quench them. They're trying to find a love in something or in somebody that would never bring them joy. And you can fill your life up. You can fill your bed up. You can fill your stuff up with things that will never quite compare to Him. And I could have called any one of you up here, and if you share your testimony with me, even if you're not saved about where you are and where you've been, I can show you areas where God was in it. And God says, today's your day. And I'll change your name.
Yes.
You might walk away from me, but you'll never be the same. You'll never be the same because I touched you. And not only that, it's not enough just that He touched you. Well, it is enough. But once you touch Him, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
It'll create something in you that will never go away. You can fill it with a lot of things. And I know people tell you a lot of things that you can fill it with. But I'm here to tell you, there is nothing like a touch from God.
That's right.
There's nothing like knowing that when you were at your worst, He set His love upon you. When you were at your weakest, before you could preach, before you could teach, before you could dance, before you had money in your pocket, even when you don't have money in your pocket, He loved you. Can I be honest with you about something? This morning, this morning I was scrolling on my Facebook page. Sometimes people put some of the strangest things on their Facebook page. And sometimes it bleeds over into mine and I have to move it off. For whatever reason, this morning there was a stripper on my Facebook page. She showed up, she was on my face, she was standing by the pole like this. And I said, oh Jesus. And the Lord said, stop. And I remember, I put my hand on the page. And I said, Lord, let her find the love in you. That goes past all the accolades of men. I'm saying it even now. That goes past anything that she could ever do. That past anything that she could ever say, past any touch. Let her find the love from you, God. I'm praying it even right now. It burns. And see, and that is a thing. And God says, with loving kindness, go on, I'm going to be through in a second. With loving kindness have I drawn you. And He says, and again I will build you.
Wow, my Lord. Jesus.
And you shall be revealed.
Oh, yes, Jesus. Hallelujah.
See, here's the thing. A lot of people have torn you down.
My God.
A lot of people have torn you down.
Yes.
A lot of situations, a lot of things, a lot of stuff has torn you down. God says, I will rebuild. And He says, and you shall be adorned with tambourines, and you shall go forth with dancing of those who rejoice. One more. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but He says, and you shall plant vines on the mountains of Samaria. The planter shall plant and shall eat them as ordinary food. I want to share something with you. A lot of people say that during the time of harvest is your time to sit back. I say no. And here's the reason why. Because if you plant something and it grows, somebody's got to gather it.
Yes.
So I say to you, after the storm, after you've been through the wilderness, after you've been through the pain, know that God has loved you. But know this, now it's time to plant and to reap the harvest. It's time to put in some work. Because God is about to bless you so much that it's going to cost you some work to gather it all up. God says, I saw you suffering. I saw you hurting. I saw you. But if you would keep the faith and hold out and follow me through the wilderness and believe me and believe on me, God says, I'm going to give you crops. I'm not just talking about, I'm going to give you things that you're going to have to work to reap. I'm going to give you stuff that's going to come and it's going to overtake you. But you got to be focused to gather it. You got to focus on me, and I'm going to bless you. I'm going to bless you. Stop looking for stuff in people who can't give you anything.
Come on now.
Amen.
Jesus.
He says,
Jesus. Thank you, God.
doesn't do you any good to leave one demon for another. God says, I desire to bless you. God says, even if I have to come back around and clean somebody up, he says, I'll clean them up, I'll clean them up, I'll clean her up, I'll clean her up, I'll clean it up, I'll do all these things. He says, but your faith has to be in me. And what God says is, God says, know this. I don't care who you are in this room. God says, everything that you've been through was for your good, but it was for my glory. I know you may not believe that. I know you may not believe that. Some of you have been through the roughest times in your life.
Yes.
And you thought God had forgotten you.
Come on.
I almost forgot something. Sometimes God will allow you to go through the storm, allow you to go through the sword, and it feels like he's cutting you into pieces. But what he's really doing is cutting away things that don't belong to him. What he's really doing is cutting off pieces and things that's going to keep you away from him. I know you've been through a rough time and you seem like you've been through the wilderness, and I'm almost done. And he says, but what he's really doing is he's getting you to a place where you can be in the wilderness, but the wilderness not be in you. He says, I'm bringing you to a place. See, because don't think that because you're out of the woods ain't in you. Because you can, I'm living proof. You can take the boy out the project, but it's hard to take the projects out the boy. He says, but I'm getting you to a place, and I've caused you to go through all that, so I can get what was on the inside of you out. Then you'll be more like me. Have you ever thought that maybe the child or the children, I had to come to grips with this. The Lord really made me realize one day that the reason why I have so much issues sometimes with people is because those people were really a reflection of my relationship with God. But what God says is, God says, I'm going to bless you so much that the blessings become ordinary to you. And then the next level, if I had him read on, is he's going to unveil a whole other level of blessing. But see, I don't want to talk about just the blessing. Go on, I'm going to read one more, and I'll leave you alone. He says, for there shall be a day. Yeah, I should have read that. When the watchman will cry out from Mount Ephraim, arise, let us go up to Zion, to the Lord our God. God says, that's the purpose. God says, I'm going to bless you so much. You notice he blessed him with the feet after the trouble, after all that. He says, I'm going to bless you so much that you're going to look for me. Isn't that awesome? He says, I'm going to do it so much. You're going to look for me. I'm going to love you so good. I'm going to lavish you with my love so that you'll look for me. Before you look for the thing, you'll look for me. That's the blessing. I don't know who I'm talking to. But the Lord said, when you were horrible, I still loved you. When you thought nobody else did, I still loved you. When you looked for love in all the wrong places, I still loved you. When you ran from me, I still loved you. When you tried to do and be things that I never even called you to be in the first place, I do. Still loved you. People talked about you. I talked to you. You wouldn't listen. But when people talked about you, I talked to you. No, you didn't listen to me a lot, but I still loved you. When you were hurting, I still loved you. The proof of the matter is the reason why I was able to do some of the things that we did on the last week, because while I was doing it, I don't know what it was, but there was a point in time where something came over me, and I felt like I had a warm blanket wrapped around me, and I knew it was the love of God. You know as well as I know. I kind of know how I got to know now that it's because He loved me. Not that I'm perfect. Not that I'm more special to Him than any of you. Just because He loved me. That type of love is going to make you stronger. It's going to make you wiser. It's going to make you better. It's going to make you better. There's a song that I want to play, and then we'll let you out of here. I don't know. I guess just consider that the offering message and the prayer message, but if you need prayer for any reason, I want you to come to the altar. If there's an area in your life you need to fix with God, I want you to come. I don't know, maybe God's love is drawing you. But here's the thing. God's love is going to keep drawing you. When you go outside and you're going across the bridge, the love of God is drawing you. When you go outside and you see a sun that you've never seen before, a sunset, it's the love of God drawing you. That car accident that you could have got into, or that car accident that you didn't get into. God's love is everlasting. His love is everlasting. You know what? Even if you decide to make your bed in hell, it still doesn't change the fact that God loves you. It's just a different part of God that steps in. There's an area in your life where you need prayer. Come.